Jesse Waters, Dana Perino, and Greg Gutfeld. It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five.
I didn't do this stuff. This is not me. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I gave y'all 30 years of my career.
Robert.
30 years of my career. Y'all trying to kill me. You're killing me, man. This is not about music. I'm trying to have a relationship with my kids, and I can't do it.
In that wild and explosive interview, R. Kelly raging against sexual abuse allegations. The embattled R&B singer vehemently denies claims that he had sex with underage girls or held women against their will.
I have to tell you, it's so hard to believe that based on all that we've read.
I'm going to tell you something, Gail. There's one thing. I'm going to tell you something. What women said about you.
What
women said about me. What women, so nobody's allowed to be mad at me and be scorned and lie on me.
So I think the point you're making is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you have never held anybody against their will.
I don't need to. Why would I?
Well,
how stupid would it be for R. Kelly, with all I've been through in my way past, to hold somebody, let alone 4, 5, 6, 50, you said. How stupid would I be to do that?
I didn't say you were holding.
That's stupid, guys. Is this camera on me?
Yes, it's on.
That's stupid. Use your common sense.
Kelly has pleaded not guilty to 10 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse. 3 of the 4 alleged victims were minors when the suspected crimes took place. His legal troubles coming after Lifetime's chilling documentary, Surviving R. Kelly. It exposed these revelations. Kelly isn't the only pop superstar facing scrutiny over these allegations in a new documentary. Michael Jackson's estate announced it's suing HBO for $100 million over Leaving Neverland. That film, which aired earlier this week, reveals disturbing details of alleged sex abuse by 2 accusers who claim Jackson molested them as children. The Jackson family has denied the allegations. Dana, first of all, let's just start with that explosive interview. He says, y'all trying to kill me. What do you think?
Well, I want to compliment Gayle King, as I think most people are. Like, amazing that she got the interview and that she handled herself so well. And my favorite part of the interview is actually when she says, Robert. like, calm yourself down. I'm curious about the performance. I'm going to call it a performance because I don't understand if it was planned, like they know the cameras are going to be there. He doesn't think he's going to get a fair shot in the court of public in court, so he's going to try to get some sympathy in the court of public opinion. This afternoon, he was actually back in court because he owes $250,000 worth of child support payments that he's late on. So I think that because he's been in jail and he's looking at going back to jail.
Well, he's in custody now, in fact.
They took him into this afternoon. So he's like, let's just lay it all out there and see if this is something that can work to keep him out of jail. I really doubt it.
Jesse, the story's been around for years about R. Kelly and really never gained traction. Then you have this incredible documentary, Surviving R. Kelly. So why now? Is it just because of the documentary?
Yeah, it's the documentary, Juan, and I've already convicted him.
Yeah.
I saw the documentary. It's atrocious. I know he's innocent until he's proven guilty, but it's so damning to listen to the women testify as to what he did to them. And this wasn't just like, oh, he made a mistake with a 17-year-old who's turning 18 in 1 month. No, this was a lifestyle that he lived for 2 to 3 decades, where his entourage was complicit, where they would allegedly procure women. He had a bedroom in his recording studio. The executives in the recording industry were aware of this, and women were paid, and you know he's got a rap sheet. So when he had this emotional outburst, I do question whether or not it was planned, but at the same time, I see a man who was cornered, who's fighting for his life, fighting for his family, fighting for his fortune, who knows it's all over at this point for him because he'd built up this fantasy world for years that he'd lived in where there was no one saying no, and it was outside of the realm of the law, and all that's crashing down, and he was acting like a child, throwing a tantrum. and acting like he was the victim, like you're doing this to me, and taking no responsibility for himself. I agree, hats off to Gayle King for totally redeeming herself after the Smollett fiasco.
Jedediah, you know...
That was not Gayle King.
Oh, I knew that.
Robin Roberts did this.
Robin Roberts.
Yeah.
Jedediah, one of the things that I think lots of people
Sorry for Robin Roberts out there.
Go right ahead, Jesse. It's
I
cool.
apologize.
It's cool. Jedediah, one of the things that I think people are fascinated by is that in the documentary, his wife says that he was abusive and a liar. Then you have not only girls, but you have their parents.
Right.
And there's a clip where he does a 2015 interview, I think, with Torre, where Torre says, "Do you like underage girls?" And he says, "What do you mean by underage?" Like, whoa, hold on, you know.
Yeah.
And even of late, with Gayle King, he says, you know, when people ask, "Do I look at younger women?" You know, I don't look at younger. I look at you and me. It's like, whoa, what?
Right.
To me, these are alarming
And
statements.
he also said in the interview, I couldn't believe the way he said it. I just look at legal. He kept saying, "Oh, they're legal," because they were asking. She was asking him, "Well, you know, you're living with a 21 and a 23-year-old. Were you with them before? Were you with them when they were underage?" I do think it's a huge tribute. Documentaries have completely changed the landscape now.
Yep.
These stories, so many people I know had made up their minds about these people 10 years ago, 20 years ago, whether it's Michael Jackson or whether you're talking about R. Kelly, and now are watching these personal testimonies, like you said, of the family members, of the victims, and there's a humanitarian element being brought to these stories, and people are changing their minds about how they feel about this. And I went to make a list of all of the girls, the underage girls. I mean, it was endless, all of these accusations, and I think it's a tribute to that format, that it's not the same as reading a news story. You can read a news story and it may sound horrific. You are not moved in the same way as when you turn on a documentary and you hear from those people who lived those stories. It's a very, very powerful vehicle, and I think it's completely changing the dynamic of news and of reporting and of everything.
So, Greg, you know something about the music industry, and I'm struck by the thought that for viewers who are as old as I am, that you could go back to someone like Jerry Lee Lewis,
Right.
was marrying his cousin who was a teenager.
Like
right?
13 or 14?
Yeah, and you come forward then to Michael Jackson and those allegations and what we've seen in Leaving Neverland. And now here we are with R. Kelly. What do you make? Is this just the music industry?
Well, no, it's awful behavior, but it's not new. It's actually a lifestyle. There are a long line of performers whose behavior is as bad as their options will allow them. So if they have the options and the advantages, they will take advantage of it. There's a whole history of this in the 1970s, especially with rock bands. They used to be called baby groupies. These were girls that were 13 to 15. There are movies about them. There are books in which they're mentioned. There are songs written by famous bands about these girls. It was just part of this lifestyle where if you wanted to be, it was almost transaction, and even parents were aware of it. Parents were aware that their girls were going to check out these guys. He is a fiend, but you're missing the history of human behavior, how status, power, and fame can create a twisted universe of options. And the victims at the time aren't even aware that they are victims. If you watch the Michael Jackson documentary, they don't even see themselves as victims until afterwards as adults when they find themselves with these psychological issues. And then you look at the parents. The parents in these cases are victims of this confirmation bias. Michael Jackson is a huge superstar. Why can't I leave my child with him? No superstar is going to molest my child so he can sleep in the same bed as my child. That is confirmation bias at its worst. It's just like conspiracy theorists who will believe anything. You must believe. You cannot not believe this. And then when it comes crashing down, you cannot forgive yourself for what happened. We're going to talk about that tomorrow with the abducted in plain sight thing. But it's like they're in heavy denial because their bias won't let them see the truth.
Well, in the short term, you have a lot of radio stations in New Zealand, Canada, pulling Michael Jackson off the radio. And even here, Tom Joyner, a leading morning DJ, saying he's not going to play R. Kelly. The Department of Homeland Security issuing a new warning about the southern border. Details ahead on The 5.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection releasing new stats showing a nearly 100% increase in asylum seekers compared to just last year. And the number of family units detained up by 300%. Democrats mostly ignoring the new data, instead going after Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen during a hearing today on Capitol Hill.
Can you independently make a decision in contrary to the President of the United States on behalf of the American people for what is best for them?
Ma'am, what I can tell you is I take my oath with utmost extreme importance. I always do my best.
Let me tell you, Madam Secretary, either you're lying to this committee or you don't know what's happening at the border.
Wow. And in a dramatic moment, Nielsen describes just how dangerous it is for children crossing the border.
As you know, sir, very unfortunately, because of the increase in violence at ICE, when we have families with children, we have to give every girl a pregnancy test over 10. This is not a safe journey.
All right, against my better judgment, I'm going to go to Juan with you first here. New York Times leads story, border at breaking point. And they talk about the broken records of families coming across. It's a real crisis, don't you agree?
I think that what you have is what we've been calling a humanitarian crisis, if that's what you're talking about. It's not about an invading army. What we have is over half of this 76,000 in the last few months is 40,000 families and an additional 7,250 kids. So it's like 2/3 of this is families, and they're largely not from Mexico, by the way,
right.
El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras.
Yep.
And when they come, they're not like running in and running somewhere and joining again. They're specifically saying we're seeking asylum because we're fleeing violence, poverty, and hunger. So that's a different dynamic than the one described, of course, in the middle of the midterms or even now in the call for
okay, but
emergency.
you admit that there's a humanitarian crisis at the border.
Oh, yeah. I
don't
think you can have
We have Juan on the record as admitting there's a crisis.
Yes, there is.
Dana, what do you think? These numbers are astronomical.
They were, and they broke records in the first 5 months that they usually would do over a year. And so, what I don't like about this hearing is that you had the Democratic Congress people ascribing terrible intentions to the secretary and suggesting that she has no idea what's going on at the border. I mean, that's extremely insulting. That's what she does all day long. She's got incredible amount of responsibilities. Part of it was preparing for that hearing to go up there so that she could be berated by them. And look, on the Republican side, they say, you agree with this, you agree. Yes. I think the thing is, like, we should all be able to agree that it's a humanitarian crisis that needs to be dealt with, right? Okay, so the Democrats don't like the wall idea. They think that's a bad one. Okay, so then what else are you suggesting to help stop the flow?
Right.
And I don't see any of that.
Right.
I don't see anything that they're suggesting that would actually stop it.
But I think there are suggestions about increasing space for detention, the judges to get this done, even arguments about whether or not we change the law.
Well, I mean, that's a great start, changing some of the asylum laws, Greg, that have these loopholes where if you're from Central America and you step foot in there with a minor, boom, send this country home free.
Sanctuary cities do not help the humanitarian crisis because what you're doing is you're suggesting that it's a lower barrier to entry. So what you're getting you're not getting asylum seekers. You're getting people that think, okay, this is going to be easier. They get raped. They get duct taped. They're given pills in case they're raped. The media drives me nuts because first it's a crisis, then it's not a crisis, then it's a crisis. I realize it's only a crisis if it hurts Trump. All right? So the media cannot be trusted on the coverage of this issue because the issue for them is driven by conflict. If you point to evidence and say you need enhanced border security, they will call you a bigot because they need the conflict to get the clickbait, to make the money. So if somebody new takes over and says exactly what Trump's saying, they'll be behind it. But until then, their breaking news at CNN will be parents deported without children. But their crisis won't be mentioned about the rapes in the caravans and stuff in the New York Times. That's a crisis.
And one of the things you mentioned in the New York Times that I found buried in the very last page was that the cartels and the smugglers send these mini caravans across the border one way, and then while Border Patrol is distracted, they send the drugs through the other way.
That's right. I mean, and you have to do two things. You have to disincentivize people who are coming here illegally, this is separate from the asylum issue. You have to disincentivize it. They can't feel that they have access, that they can easily come over. And then the second thing you have to do is you have to modify the asylum laws. Whether we expand the deportation centers or the processing centers, as you said, Juan, or expand our ability there or increase Border Patrol agents, that's all fine and good, but that's not doing anything about the influx of the people coming over. And the issue with the language for asylum is that credible fear. People are concerned that it's too broad, that essentially a lot of these people coming from these countries, what defines, a credible fear of persecution? Are they talking about something that's coming from a position of authority or a leader? Are they talking about something happening in their own home? Is that language so broad now that you have a bunch of people using the asylum clause that shouldn't actually fall under the asylum clause? Because the bottom line is you have to be able to manage this in some way. You cannot have an influx of this many people coming across the border. We can't sustain it. We can't vet it. And it's just not workable. This situation is not sustainable.
And sometimes, you're right, it is a credible fear of persecution, but then you have instances where people are recycling children to then just use as props to bring across in order to get
That's good for the environment.
That's good. AOC supports that. A revered economist warning about what will happen to America if Democrats pass their socialist policies. Up next.
When the smartest guy in the world tells you to be worried, here's legendary economist Thomas Sowell lamenting the romance of socialism.
Socialism is a wonderful sounding idea. It's only as a reality that it's disastrous. So many people today, including in the leading universities, don't pay much attention to evidence. When you see people starving in Venezuela and fleeing into neighboring countries and realize that this is a country that once had the world's largest oil reserves, you realize that they've ruined a very good prospect with ideas that sounded good but didn't turn out well. I do have a great fear that in the long run we may not make it, and I hate to say that.
I hate to hear it. So socialism succeeds because we ignore history, always waking up to another homicidal Groundhog Day. Thanks to bitter academics who couldn't find real work, a lazy, poorly educated media confused by economics, and a naive populace, it keeps coming back. It's the Freddy Krueger of political theories. Every decade, a new nightmare. The key to stopping it is all of us. We must resist those who don't see the scam behind socialism, that only offers the fantasy of free everything, hoping you never ask, but how? The only winners in the socialist state are those who run the state. Every leftist dreams of standing up on the platform and reviewing the parade of workers and tanks. That's how you prevent a Venezuela. You just describe it. A fat tyrant and lunch from garbage trucks. From Zimbabwe to Albania, once socialism, a centralized beast, fails, which it always does, the whole thing goes. And that triggers the survival instinct of those in power who ultimately rely on force. Of course, people can cite social programs as socialism, but safety nets and charity can only thrive via the free market. Today's leftist prefers all net and no market. That's disastrous. No wonder when you look into the eyes of a true believing socialist, you see something off. It's fervent belief untethered to reality, and in that fervor is an acceptance that if it doesn't work out, we'll just send in the army. So, hey, Juan, I have a theory that I think that this is a time when libertarians and conservatives can look at the promises of socialism and say, we can achieve that without socialism. Because, free markets deliver on goods. Like a TV costs $20,000, is now $200, like the big screens. You look at the space program is now in a phone. Socialism didn't bring us the iPhone. Capitalism did. So actually, the free markets are what makes things free or freer. How's that for a theory?
Theory.
I'm a big fan of capitalism, but I do think that you have to moderate some of its excesses. Obviously, we moderate something like child labor or monopolies, or my favorite of recent vintage, too big to fail, which has angered a lot of people on the left and the right.
Angered me.
Okay, so I think that you have to look at it in those terms. Now, Tom Sowell is a friend, so I'm great admirer of Thomas Sowell, brilliant man. But I think when you look at it, the response from the right is to say, much like Donald Trump, so let's have trade wars because that'll cut it down. Let's impose tariffs and the like, right? We're going to play against this because there's income inequality, and income inequality is what's driving calls for the bigger social safety net that people are calling socialism. But what do we see today? Deficits the biggest ever, trade deficits with China the biggest ever. I'm just thinking maybe instead of screaming about socialism, we should scream about some of these economic policies now in place that aren't delivering for the very people who voted for Donald Trump.
But there are people doing better under Trump.
That's true.
You know?
I do. And I honestly appreciate his pessimism, that he says, I don't know if we're going to make it, because I think it says something about human nature. Unfortunately, I think we as a people sometimes, it doesn't matter how many times we read about Venezuela or we look to the history of other countries. It's like we have to suffer through it ourselves. And I think he's saying, I don't know if you can avoid the fact that these sound bites sound really good.
Right.
This stuff sounds amazing. It sounds fantastic. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't show up like that. Logic would tell you to be able to look at the histories of other countries or the present day of other countries and be able to deduce that's not going to be an answer. But it's almost like we're compelled to live through the suffering ourselves. And that's what I took from what he was saying. And unfortunately, I think in this culture, in this day and age, with technology being what it is and Twitter, the soundbite wins. So they are running in academia, people on the left, they're running with that free stuff. And it's just harder to explain capitalism.
We need better sound bites, Jesse, like saying, socialism is like a Santa making all of us the elves.
Well, I like Build the Wall and Make America Great Again a little bit better than that. I think our sound bites are great. I liked the Freddy Krueger and the Groundhog Day reference.
Oh, thank you.
That was good.
Thank you.
I would disagree with Juan. Juan says we need to moderate the excesses of capitalism. I don't think $100 trillion in the Green New Deal is moderate. I think that's pretty extreme. And the only thing that can defeat America is if we defeat ourselves. We're not guaranteed to only be the world superpower forever. There's been plenty of empires in the past that have crashed and crumbled because they overextend, and then when they're confronted, they implode. What's going on now is we have a choice. We can either be the world superpower, confront China, dominate space, and spread peace and prosperity, or we can curl up inwardly and redistribute the wealth here. So we can't win with socialism. Socialism will destroy our national security. You can't spend trillions on national defense and trillions here at home. It's either one or the other. So if you want to live not under the thumb of the Chinese nuclear threat, I'd say stick with capitalism.
Dana, you are a fan of capitalism, or so I've read in your book, How Much I Love Capitalism by Dana Perino, out in 2021.
Yes. Thank you for that plug. Free plug. I think when we here say we don't want to be like Venezuela, like the Democrats say, well, we're not suggesting Venezuela.
Right, yeah.
We think that we can be more like Sweden.
Yes.
Where they have 10 million people.
Right.
And they're taxed at an X amount, and they have a pretty low standard of living.
Yeah.
But they do they have socialized medicine? Yes. Okay, so is that what we want here? Like, what would that look like? What I would suggest for the Republicans and conservatives is to think about innovation for the safety net.
Yes.
So, for example, let's just take free college. Okay, so, well, maybe it's not exactly free, but are there ways to use technology and innovation and ideas?
Online universities.
Absolutely.
Same with online medicine or AI medicine.
And one example also would be, like, if we were talking about criminal justice reform, you have all of these people that are in jail. If they're going to get out and they don't have any skills, you want to know why? Because we forbid computers and we forbid Wi-Fi. But is there an innovative way to deal with that so that they could actually have access to education so that when they get out, they have skills that they could use to get a job? I mean, there are other ways to think about improving the social safety net rather than becoming a socialist.
Yes. You know the Swedish currency is Swedish fish.
I love Swedish fish.
Yeah, that's
meatballs.
It's meatballs too. If you go to IKEA, you pay in meatballs.
Gotcha.
I don't know what I'm saying at this point. A new Chick-fil-A campus controversy that's heating up.
Welcome back. A college dean resigning over her school's Chick-fil-A ban. The dean calling Rider University's public opposition to the fast food chain a, quote, punch in the stomach, and adding that it clashes with her Christian values. Administrators causing the controversy when they blocked Chick-fil-A despite students saying they wanted it. All right, what struck me about this, Greg, was that the university gave out talking points and essentially said, listen, we're not going to have Chick-fil-A. This is what we want you to say. And that was the point at which she said, I'm just not going to do this. I have to object, and she resigned as dean. This is a very brave move to me for someone working at a university.
It's amazing that people are resigning over chicken. But you know, this is more proof, and we know this. wherever politics seeps into, it poisons it, whether it's sports, entertainment, and now it's food, because it creates two sides where there should only be one side, which is enjoyment. So like if you're watching football, you should just enjoy it, but instead you got two sides about the flag. And then if there's, if you want to be a comedian, you can't be because you're so woke now, you can't make jokes about certain things because you have to prove you're woke. And then you can't eat that chicken because of their religious beliefs. Wherever you allow politics to wander in, it just takes a big crap on all the fun.
I thought about that because I was thinking most kids on a college campus, they're not thinking about the political ideologies
I think they are now.
of the people. You think so? I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of kids
it's become
just want
fashionable.
Well, I mean, maybe for some, but I think a lot of people reading this story, a lot of kids on college campuses, they just want to eat the chicken in peace. Like, they're not thinking all the time as plugged in. The administrators, yes. But I don't know if the students think about it every minute of every day so much as the administrators who want to push a certain agenda and want that school's agenda to be cohesive.
Well, I think if you were a school administrator, your primary worry would be that you bring Chick-fil-A on campus and then all of a sudden there are all these demonstrations and efforts to show that Chick-fil-A is not open to gay people or not supportive of people who aren't religious or trying to impose or indoctrinate with their values. And then, of course, the people who run Chick-fil-A say that's not the case. That in fact that they're selling chicken and they're simply people who have religious beliefs. That's why they close their store and forego profits on Sunday. But I think that would drive me, if I was a college administrator, to have some concern about, so now we're going to become the platform for demonstrations against Chick-fil-A. We just want the kids to have some food.
See, but if you do that, then I think you're acting out of fear. And then you're acting based on what, oh, this might trigger this person or this might upset this person. And then you wind up, Jesse, with this concept that everyone at that school should feel the same and, oh, this is what's safe, this won't upset anyone. It's supposed to be a university. This is supposed to be where diversity of thought goes to thrive.
I don't understand boycotts because I'm too self-centered. I don't. Like if Pelosi had wine from the vineyard, I'm guzzling the wine down. I'll wear Nikes because I like how they look on me.
Yeah.
If Peter Strzok owned a steakhouse and I was hungry, I would go right into that steakhouse. I would get a deep state steak, medium rare. I might stiff him on a tip. But nothing would stop me from fulfilling my immediate appetite politically, barring a few things, but not many. I know gay people that love Chick-fil-A. I think there's probably more straight college students that are protesting Chick-fil-A than there are gay students just because they want to be seen as sympathetic to the cause, and they have every right to do that, but it's not hurting Chick-fil-A's bottom line. Chick-fil-A's taking over. You should see the line outside. There's no line for McDonald's like that.
Yeah. I always get asked, one of the questions I get asked most is by college students who are conservative, who see stuff like this and feel like their values are always pushed into a minority. Like this woman felt like her Christianity was being attacked, like somehow Chick-fil-A, which represented her ideology, was somehow synonymous with something bad. And they don't know what to do. Those college students that are in the minority don't know what to do. They always say, what do I do? And I don't have good advice for them because it's hard. And there is a fear that they will be punished or ostracized. Is there any way to advise them in a good way?
Tell them to call me.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll call Dana.
One of the things that you can do when you can have your courage of your convictions, what this dean did, and she decided to resign.
She didn't play chicken.
Exactly. But
she's
the other
gonna
thing I would say is what Greg was saying is that if you're a conservative and this is like a problem for you, one thing that you can do
jumping down on
is try to excise politics from it. Like actually practice that, and you'll have a happier life.
Can I add to what Juan was saying is the demonstrations only work on one side. Do you know, like if I don't think there's any campus or company that worries about Christians demonstrating. Like we're going to picket because we didn't like what ABC had on their nighttime programming. People in their boardrooms are like, who cares about the Christians? But if you got an environmental group or if you have a gay rights group, those demonstrations are effective and they scare the hell out of people. Even if it's a small group, it feels so large. And cowardly companies, corporations, they often will fold rather than deal with.
Well, because there used to be actual physical people with picket things and signs, and now it's someone on Twitter.
Yeah, it's a low barrier of entry.
Right.
Yep. I think she's brave. I think it's pretty bold to put that out there. And, man, on a college campus, I'm sure she's going to take her fair share of heat. All right, Wild Card Wednesday is coming up next.
I'm a sucker for you. Say the word and I'll go anywhere blindly.
get to get this little thing a whirl. And we've got a full 5 minutes. And we're
Yay, 5 minutes, hooray. What is it?
Number one, Twitter users reveal what their mother's 2020 campaign slogans would be. One Twitter user asked a question of what your mom's slogan would be, and reactions were all over the place, from a warm, I'm not mad, just disappointed, or vote for me, don't make me ask you again. It's pretty cute. Whose story is this?
Oh, this one's me.
Oh.
Yes, and I think my mom's slogan, because I text her what it would be, it was, let us pray, is her slogan.
P-R-E-Y, as a liberal.
That's
preying
true.
upon our government.
That's true.
I think my mom's would be, 2020, you can count on me. Maybe. That doesn't rhyme, but it's still nice.
My mom would be 2020, pour me a vodka.
Now.
But she's dead, but she would say that.
Anybody else got one for their
I
mom?
don't know. It would be very blunt. Like, don't be an idiot, vote for me. Like, it would be very blunt and very simple and very direct.
One.
Vamos.
2020. All right, here's another one. Some can draw bikes from memory. Others definitely can't. Greg, this is yours, right?
Yes.
So over the course of 6 years, you want to
No, read it.
So
It's
over
your
the course
thing.
of 6 years, Italian artist Giovini discovered most people cannot draw a bicycle from memory. Only 25% could. So we have things here. Okay, so now we're supposed to draw a bike.
Okay, no, here's the interesting thing. There's amazing pictures. Nobody can draw a bike.
Hold on.
Nobody.
I can't draw
Nobody
anything.
can draw a
so
bike.
it's not gonna
Okay,
go well.
so we're drawing bikes here.
There.
And we got to keep talking, though, because people
All right,
are...
there, I'm done. That's me.
Oh, man. I don't remember.
That looks like a bike. Come on, people with the cameras. Where did you go? There you are. That's a bike. You look like that looks like a picnic table, Jedediah.
Wait, what's not mine? Mine's pretty good.
I say it's
No, what is that? What is that going on there?
Well, that's a
kinda
seat,
smushed
and
it
somebody's
up.
sitting on it.
Oh, I can tell
Let me
that's
see yours.
I wrote something else.
I'm sorry, Robin.
All
Oh,
right,
come
we got
on, people.
Another one. Let me go.
This was
Blowback after Kylie Jenner named youngest self-made billionaire. I feel like we already did this story.
Yes.
Because she became a billionaire, and there was blowback because of the so-called self-made. And now she's actually the youngest self-made billionaire.
She's
beating
amazing.
Out, Mark
She is
Zuckerberg.
amazing.
Do you have a problem with self-made?
I picked that one. The self-made bothers me a little bit just because she's talented, she's successful, she's a hard worker, but she's not self-made.
Why not?
She came into this because she came into this, let's be realistic, she came into this world with a big name, with a lot of money. That's not self-made. If she wasn't on the Kardashians, I don't know if she would have launched the career like this, but it wouldn't have
People
played out
argue the
quite
sex
this way.
scandal from her sister is what created this entire thing. But so what?
Was that not self-made?
They got that was a self-made
Right?
tape.
No, but here's the
That's not
self-made argument.
self-made,
Her
though.
mother.
Yeah.
Her mother's the genius.
Yeah.
Her mother's the one who's pushed all the girls into very
Right.
successful lines. It's the mom.
I love them all.
I like her stuff. It's just she's not self-made.
I got to check out her makeup. All right. A new study finds that snack sales surge in states where recreational marijuana becomes legal.
This
is
is news.
mine. Okay, yeah, this is news. 10 years worth because
here we go.
also was a chance for me to bring props. This was the kind of thing. Colorado, Washington, and Oregon studied retail habits, seeing a 5.3% increase in sales. For potato chips, followed by cookies, 4.1%, and ice cream, 3.1%.
Why are you doing
and
this?
now I brought them here for you because I thought it would be fun.
You can't even see them.
When I said I wanted to do a story and I said I wanted to have props, they thought I wanted weed.
Oh.
No, I
Well,
didn't
no,
want
that's your
it.
code word when you text me. Do you have any props?
You got any props?
And then I got to go drive uptown and drop off
All right, I'll have the
a
ice cream
bag.
here.
What flavor is it?
Cookies and cream.
Cookies and cream.
Oh, not bad.
Okay, here's one last one. Instagram couple facing backlash after dangerous photo shoot outside a moving train.
What?
Whose is this?
That's mine.
Come
So this
on.
couple, Dana, is from Portugal, and they're on a train in Sri Lanka. And as you can see, she's got one hand holding the train and then holding on to him, and he's taking the picture. They said, oh, it's a slow-moving train. But instead, people who have seen this, and by the way, there are like 40,000 likes for this, incredibly. People are saying this is an insanely stupid stunt. You
It is.
risk your life for a picture.
You know what they say? That's called dying for the gram.
Also, have you ever...
I've died for a gram.
Wait,
Yeah.
you know, dying for
I
the
thought it was a
gram.
prop.
Yeah,
For the Instagram
For the
one.
Instagram.
Instagram.
Do you know,
Instagram fame.
they have to come up with a statistic called Instagram death rate to find out if it's had any impact anywhere on the death rate under certain age groups. I bet it has.
It's also destroyed. Remember those people that were falling into art? It's destroyed so much property.
Also,
over the
there's
years.
Photoshop. Like, why don't you just do that? It's much safer.
I bet Instagram's killed more people than global warming.
Interesting.
What an argument.
You know what? I think you might be right. You're going to go out on a limb.
Right. One more thing up next.
Dana.
So right after we went to air, there was some major news made about a television icon, someone we all love and know. Alex Trebek has announced that, well, of course, you know him as the longtime host of Jeopardy. He announced today that he has been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He wrote in a statement, normally the prognosis for this is not very encouraging, but I'm going to fight this and I'm going to keep working, adding that I plan to beat the low survival rate statistics for this disease because under the terms of my contract, I have to host Jeopardy for 3 more years. So help me. Keep the faith and we'll win. We'll get it done. Thank you. And boy, I've watched him I love watching him. We even DVR Jeopardy. And we will continue to, of course. So we certainly wish you the best, and we're going to pull for you as well.
Yeah, big
Great
prayers
show.
for Alex. What do you do if you're a kid and it's cold and rainy outside? Well, you could always play dress up like a police fireman, or hang your head off the side of a chair so the blood rushes all the way down your nose there. Or if your parents let you play monster by sticking plastic eyeballs on your face, you make a video. Take a look at my grandkids having a little fun. That's my grandson Eli on the left as a zombie. And the girls are putting on a twin monster show of their own on the right side.
In slow-mo. I love it.
Yeah. So these kids aren't even teenagers, and already they're my little monsters. Get the joke?
Cute.
All right, Gregory.
All right. You got to go to FoxNewsPodcast.com. As mentioned yesterday, my guest today is Jan Broberg. She was the star, or not, I wouldn't say star, of the Netflix documentary Abducted in Plain Sight. She was the young girl who was kidnapped twice, I think at age 12 and 14, by a trusted family friend. We talked for quite a while. It's powerful insights on what it's like to be manipulated by a predator.
Yeah.
Now, but deep transition. Great. Okay, where am I? All right, let's go to this cat. All right. Cat's on a couch with an owl. I don't know how this...
Welcome back. A college dean resigning over her school's Chick-fil-A ban. The dean calling Rider University's public opposition to the fast food chain a, quote, punch in the stomach, and adding that it clashes with her Christian values. Administrators causing the controversy when they blocked Chick-fil-A despite students saying they wanted it. All right, what struck me about this, Greg, was that the university gave out talking points and essentially said, listen, we're not going to have Chick-fil-A. This is what we want you to say. And that was the point at which she said, I'm just not going to do this. I have to object, and she resigned as dean. This is a very brave move to me for someone working at a university.
It's amazing that people are resigning over chicken. But, you know, this is more proof than we know this. Wherever politics seeps into, it poisons it, whether it's sports, entertainment, and now it's food, because it creates two sides where there should only be one side, which is enjoyment. So like if you're watching football, you should just enjoy it, but instead you got two sides about the flag. And then if there's, you know, if you want to be a comedian, you can't be because you're so woke now, you can't make jokes about certain things because you have to prove you're woke. And then you can't eat that chicken because of their religious beliefs. Wherever you allow politics to wander in, it just takes a big crap on all the fun.
I thought about that because I was thinking most kids on a college campus, they're not thinking about the political ideologies of the people. You think so? I mean, yeah. I think a lot of kids
it's become
just want...
fashionable.
Well, I mean, maybe for some, but I think a lot of people reading this story, a lot of kids on college campuses, they just want to eat the chicken in peace. Like, they're not thinking all the time as plugged in. The administrators, yes. But I don't know if the students think about it every minute of every day so much as the administrators who want to push a certain agenda and want that school's agenda to be cohesive.
Well, I think if you were a school administrator, your primary worry would be that you bring Chick-fil-A on campus and then all of a sudden there are all these demonstrations and efforts to show that Chick-fil-A is not open to gay people or not supportive of people who aren't religious or trying to impose or indoctrinate with their values. And then, of course, the people who run Chick-fil-A say that's not the case. That in fact that they're selling chicken and they're simply people who have religious beliefs. That's why they close their store and forego profits on Sunday. But I think that would drive me, if I was a college administrator, to have some concern about, so now we're going to become the platform for demonstrations against Chick-fil-A. We just want the kids to have some food.
See, but if you do that, then I think you're acting out of fear, and then you're acting based on what, oh, this might trigger this person, or this might upset this person, and then you wind up, Jesse, with this concept that everyone at that school should feel the same, and, oh, this is what's safe, this won't upset anyone. It's supposed to be a university. This is supposed to be where diversity of thought goes to thrive.
I don't understand boycotts because I'm too self-centered. I don't. Like if Pelosi had wine from the vineyard, I'm guzzling the wine down. I'll wear Nikes because I like how they look on me.
Yeah.
If Peter Strzok owned a steakhouse and I was hungry, I would go right into that steakhouse. I would get a deep state steak, medium rare. I might stiff him on a tip. But nothing would stop me from fulfilling my immediate appetite politically, barring a few things, but not many. I know gay people that love Chick-fil-A. I think there's probably more straight college students that are protesting Chick-fil-A than there are gay students just because they want to be seen as sympathetic to the cause, and they have every right to do that, but it's not hurting Chick-fil-A's bottom line. Chick-fil-A's taking over. You should see the line outside. There's no line for McDonald's like that.
Yeah. I always get asked